We take our finances very seriously. We reinvest $3 to $4 million a year just into infrastructure, and we do that at a very low tax rate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're getting down to brass tacks. This question's a little bit longer, so I'd be happy to repeat it, and it does have to do with growth, so I think it kind of falls nicely. So we have Rebecca Perkins will answer this one first. The Zeeland Planning Commission recently recommended, and the Zeeland City Council recently approved, Meade Johnson's rezoning application at the city-side townhouses from residential to I-2 general industrial. This rezoning decision was made despite significant neighborhood opposition and facilitated Meade Johnson's proposed industrial development of residential properties. If you were a city council person, how would you have voted on this rezoning application despite this opposition?
Can you say that last part one more time?
If you were a city council member, how would you have voted on this rezoning application despite ample opposition? And I'd be happy to read the top again if you'd like.
That's good. The Meade Johnson expansion is definitely a hot topic, and our community has very mixed feelings about it. There are very compelling arguments on both sides, for sure. On one side, you have the people that live across the street. They don't want the factory expansion in front of their home that they live in. Most people's biggest asset. They don't want the extra traffic, and they're concerned about the smells. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. On the flip side, you have a large company that's been part of the city of Zeeland for 101 years. Their equipment is aging, and they will no longer be able to use it at some point. They have said their project, reinvesting in their project, would be $836 million in updating their facility. If they said yes to the expansion, it upsets residents, and some may move or have moved. They say no to the expansion, and Meade Johnson has to update their facility. So do they move out? They've said that if they cannot expand here in Zeeland, that they do have to move out of the community, leaving a building, a large industrial building that could be abandoned for who knows how long. It's a very tough decision. It's an ongoing decision. I think it's just important to listen, ask questions, look at the big picture and the long term of the effects of the residents and the community. And just wondering if there could be a win-win or some kind of compromise.
Okay, Andrew, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes.
The City Planning Commission, the Zeeland Planning Commission recently recommended, and the Zeeland City Council recently approved, Meade Johnson's rezoning application at city-side townhomes from residential to I-2 general industrial. This rezoning decision was made despite significant neighborhood opposition and facilitated Meade Johnson's proposed industrial development of residential properties. If you were on City Council, how would you have voted on this rezoning application despite the opposition?
I'm surprised we got this far along without that question coming up already. Obviously, this has been one of the biggest issues that Zeeland has faced since allowing alcohol here. And yeah, it was heated on both sides. Everyone had an opinion on this, and some came on strong. There was plenty of vocal opposition against it. There was also plenty of less vocal support. Not being in city council or on the planning commission, I may not have had all of the information that they have to make an informed vote. But as previously stated, Mead Johnson is a staple in our community. They bring in a lot of tax revenue. They obviously plan on staying here for a long time with that much of an investment. Zeeland is a city that has been really built on infrastructure. We have 3 times as many people work here than live here. So keeping a company like that in the fold is very important. However, as a citizen of that area, I'm also not thrilled with a company moving further in town. You know, Amy and I live essentially down the street from it. Ericka lives across the street from it. We all have a vested interest in what happens in the east side of Zeeland. Unfortunately, in a situation like this, I don't know if there is a win-win. One side will win and one side will lose, and that is the hard part about government. And that's why we need strong leadership to be able to make those decisions. You know, I believe that no matter what side loses, there needs to be reconciliation. Obviously, the vote has gone through. And I think City Council needs to be heavily involved now in the planning of what happens at Mead Johnson, whether that's a sound barrier, sight barrier at the road. I think Mead Johnson has been acceptable to those terms of Zeeland being heavily involved in what happens. And I think the current City Council has done a good job with that, and I think our future City Councils need to be heavily involved as well.
If you step into the Zeeland Historical Society, there is a lot of evidence of just how important industry is to Zeeland. I actually have worked for two of the biggest ones. I really enjoyed working at Illinois and Ventura, and I know that industry is important, and so we need to be good partners with our industrial partners. We don't want to lose them, and that is the same. That's the case for Mead Johnson. They employ a lot of people, and they contribute a lot to our tax base, so I know that they're an important industry partner. I think my greatest disappointment was how quickly that decision was made. As someone who is very involved, because I do live across the street from where they're going to be putting this in, I was very disappointed. There were errors in their application. There were no environmental studies done. I attended the city council meeting in which they voted, and when they asked them if they had any questions, they said nothing. And I think our citizens deserved more than that. I don't necessarily think that there may have been another solution, but I sure would have liked to have seen better effort, more expectations, instead of just kind of letting Mead Johnson bully us into saying yes, because they said, well, we either get to expand or we leave. And obviously we don't want them to leave, but I think there could have been better partnership, which I think would have meant a lot to the citizens who were affected. And again, if I am elected to the council, when it comes to the site plans and all of the decisions that have yet to be made, I think this is another opportunity for the city to, again, partner with the neighborhood and work with Mead Johnson to give them, just to make sure that as they can work as hard as they can to be a good neighbor, because they have not been thus far. But I think there's an opportunity for them to rewrite that story. I think there's a lot of ways that they can integrate with the neighborhood better than they do currently. But again, I'm very disappointed with just how quickly that decision was made and how very little discussion there was about it.
So the question was specifically about 605 Main Street, and that was the townhomes. I sit on Planning Commission and City Council, and I voted to rezone one of the properties, the Red Barn property, but I voted no on a Planning Commission level and a City Council level to rezone the townhomes. My primary reason for doing that was I didn't feel that it fit the master plan, and it's a different situation because these are all individual property owners that own their property, that have the right to sell or not sell their property to anyone they see fit. The residents at the townhomes were renters who had no say. And I'm not in the business of throwing people out of their homes. That's not why I'm on City Council. I I also am a renter. After my divorce, I lost my house. I am a renter. Renters are not less than. And I truly believe that there needs to be a acknowledgement that renters and people that are struggling a little more than the homeowners around this town because they can't afford to buy a home in this town. They need to have a voice on city council as well.
The question was, how would I have voted? I would have voted no. I think there could have been more creative solutions, input in place for Lakeshore Advantage, other sites looked at. I still wanted Mead Johnson to expand, to get the property that they needed. I think there was other ways than to demolish the townhomes. The city council, I'm sure, will be looking at the site plan of Mead Johnson to ensure that the noise and the buffer is looked at. That's what I would like to be involved with. The stink, it's a problem. I live on that side of the city, you can hear it. But the city council is aware, they know that our area of town needs it to be addressed, so.
Thank you. Okay, so this next question starts with Andrew. This is kind of a two-parter, but in general terms, first, if elected, how do you define accountability as an elected official, and what does that look like in practice for a city council member? Secondly, how will you assure that accountability extends not only to you as a city council member, but across city departments in matters of concerns for all citizens of Zeeland? Sure. If elected, how do you define accountability as an elected official? And what does that look like in practice for a city council member? Secondly, how will you ensure that accountability extends not only to you as a council member, but across all city departments in matters that concern all citizens of Zeeland?
I might have you read that second part again. I'm as a city council member, accountability should be defined as doing what is right for the community, and doing what the community wants. We're civil servants. Those who get elected this time, there's going to be 3 new people. I think the city wants people who are going to listen to their needs and their wants and their desires. And I think being accountable is listening to the constituents. It's being the servant to the constituents, and how we be accountable is through transparency, through good communication, through events where we're able to hear the community, things that they want, things that they have to complain about, listening to those complaints whether they want to or not, being readily available, but mostly being honest and transparent about what's happening in the government, which I think is a lot easier to do at the local role. We've seen it not be transparent at many forms of government. So I think that is an imperative thing. Can you read that second part one more time? Sorry.
How does accountability look in terms of if you, to ensure that accountability extends not only to you, but across city departments and matters of concerns for all citizens in the city?
Sure. Again, I think that's just full-on communication and transparency. As long as city council is being transparent, as long as the planning commission is being transparent, all the other committees and commissions being honest and transparent is going to allow for the greatest discourse, for the greatest conversation and discussion. I believe that it's what's necessary to make a government run efficiently, as I've said earlier, and in order to promote growth and to have a government that is working for the people. Just being transparent, open, and honest is what's important.
said in my opening statement that what separates good leadership from great is not what you do, but how you do it. And I think that's the definition of accountability is at the end of the day, regardless of whether you're voting on whether you agree with the flower plan for downtown or whether you're voting on whether to let someone expand, that you feel that you have gone 110% into the research, asking questions, listening to people to make your ultimate decision, that nothing's done flippantly. And that's something I very, very deeply believe. I think that the Holland Sentinel actually sent out some questions, and one of them was about why or how partisan politics, whether they have a role in local government. And as I was thinking about that question, ultimately, we're your neighbors, right? Like, we're all neighbors, and I want to live in a city where people know that I deeply care about them, and even if I voted in a way that wasn't the way someone wanted, that they knew they could still talk to me on the street, that I still wanted them to be here, that I still deeply, deeply cared about them, because that's how I wanted to be treated with some of the decisions that have gone lately, is I wanted to be seen as a person. And I wanted our council to know that even if they voted the way I didn't want them to, that I still saw them as a person. Because we're all neighbors, we all live together, we're also solving local problems, and I think it's really important to keep that in mind. As to how it expands to the rest of the city employees and such, I think it really comes down to asking questions, right? Every council meeting, our council has the opportunity to listen to our experts about different topics, and it's up to them to ask the questions and make sure that they're doing their job, and that when they come with a recommendation, that those recommendations have been thoroughly thought about. So I think, again, just conversation, it's a really, really useful tool.
So accountability in terms of city staff, that really falls under the purview of our city manager. We, as a city council, are the city manager's boss. So asking a few more questions about day-to-day operations is a reasonable thing to do. When it comes to accountability for myself, it's about the dedication. It's about looking myself in the mirror at the end of the day, every day, not just city council meetings, every day, and saying, did you do the right thing today? And if you can say yes, that's all I have to worry about. If I have to say no, then I need to do better. And there are days like that too. But if you're holding yourself accountable, you can hold others accountable. But if you can't hold yourself accountable, you have no business trying to point the finger at someone else. And I think working together, city council is incredibly accountable to their neighbors, to their constituents, and to each other.
Accountability, to me, is to be able to, if you vote yes or if you vote no, you need to be able to answer why you voted a certain way. You need to be able to discuss truthfully, be open, and if someone disagrees with you, it's okay to listen to them and be able to answer to their side. Just know, and you need to know why you voted a certain way. Accountability across city departments, our city government, they speak. It's very, if you have a question about Zeeland Rec and they don't know the answer, they call them. The city departments are not, they work all well together. So if you think something doesn't extend, it's a simple conversation to have.
I think regarding accountability, definitely having an accountability to the citizens, the residents of our community, to my friends, to my neighbors, and the community as a whole. and representing them and doing the best I can to think through things, to listen, to take in the information. We're not experts on everything, so I think it's important, and we owe it to the community to be willing to listen, be open-minded, don't go into a big decision with your mind made up. I think it's just good to take everything in and reevaluate and look at, you know, how does this affect things today and also in the long term. I think it's important, and a couple other people said it, you know, this city council is not for people that have an agenda or a platform. It's about what is best for our community as a whole. I think it's also, you know, kind of like Amy said, you know, if you're going to make a decision, reflect on it, be willing to answer those questions. If you don't make the right decision, you need to learn from it as well. And I think that, you know, people in general should just do that in life anyway. Communicating accountability across departments, I agree with Amy. I think the communication is good. They seem to have very good relationships. They seem to meet on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question will be to Ericka. If you could add one service of amenity to the city, what would you like it to be? What would you like to see? Service or amenity?
I'm going to cheat a little bit and talk about one that we do not currently have, but they're looking into, which is a rec center. I was really excited to see that on the plan as for 2025 to start looking into the feasibility study of that. I know how busy Zeeland Rec is, and that there's a lot of kids that aren't able to get in. Several of my friends are having, like, they talk about having to be ready and set an alarm in order to get their kids into certain programs through Zeeland Rec, which is through the schools right now. But I think that's something that would benefit all ages, and with just how walkable our town is, I think it would be very accessible for most of the city. And I think, again, it's just because we live in Michigan, having an indoor space that people can be active in the winter would be really nice. So that's something that I would love to see our city look into. Again, how we would pay for it and the feasibility and all those things. I'm very confident they're gonna look into it and do a great job with that. But yeah, I would really love to see that.
So now, this is not something that the city would necessarily be directly involved in, but this would require some rezonings. It would require a developer. Something that I think Zeeland and West Michigan could really use. We don't have a real destination spot. I think the Howard Miller property presents us with a golden opportunity to diversify our tax base. I would love to see a miniature version of like a Great Wolf Lodge on that property. Great Wolf Lodge in Traverse City sits on 50 acres. That's roughly about a 20-acre site. It would really knock out a couple of long-time goals that the city has had. It would be a hotel. There would be another restaurant. It would be a destination spot. It would diversify our tax base. There's so many different exciting possibilities for that. We would probably generate more revenue with it being industrial, but that would be something that I would be really excited about seeing.
One thing I always wanted to see in the city of Zeeland is a volunteer garden, parks, flower club, such as, I don't want to compare ourselves to Holland. The city of Zeeland is unique on its own, but one thing that was always fun to go to was the Holland always had a volunteer flower garden club, that when I brought up the idea to Tim Klunder once, he said, you know, that it's a great idea. All the special garden people in Zeeland belong to that club in Holland. And I think that's something that we could do on our own. We have a wonderful system, we have a wonderful volunteer group. I think that would be something unique for us.
I would say we have a large population in our community that have been very, very long time residents because it's been such a great community to live in. So we do have a portion of our community that is an aging part of our community, and something maybe more along the lines of seniors. Maybe, you know, in Holland they have Evergreen Commons, so something along those lines might be good in our community.
I think Glenn and I were on the same page when it comes to the water theme, but my thought process was leaning more towards how Holland has their aquatic center. I think Zeeland, also in a space like the future abandoned lot there, could benefit from a aquatic center of sorts. I can't tell you how many patients of mine have stated that their weekend plans are going to the aquatic center with their kids, their grandkids, etc. That's something that Zeeland's missing out of, is leaving the city and going to Holland. Having something like that would benefit families with young kids. It would benefit the aging population. You could have therapy pools, hot tubs, all the stuff that the aquatic center has. As Evergreen Commons as well has some of the workout areas, equipment, and it could just be more of another community center.
Okay, this next one starts with Glenn. The city has been a proponent of a tax abatement such as Act 198-210 and Brownsfield redevelopments to incentivize economic development. This is cursive, I should have read it twice. Let me start this again. The city has been a proponent of the use of tax abatements such as Act 198 and 210, which is the Brownsfield redevelopment, to incentivize economic development. Is this something that you believe should continue? Why or why not? And we're starting with Glenn, please. Glenn, Kass.
So I actually sit on the tax abatement committee. The amount of private investment that happens in this community is mind-blowing to me. The number of jobs that it creates or keeps here is amazing. The amount of taxes that the industries pay already, that keeps our millage rate at that 11.1354 mils, the second lowest in the county. It provides us with significant opportunities to reinvest money, snow melt, streets, sidewalks. The Act 210s is the commercial rehabilitation tax incentive, which has been used repeatedly downtown. The brownfield, that's a relatively new incentive from the state that developers have used to help facilitate slide building, 17 East Main. Developers aren't going to develop if it doesn't make sense for them financially. So the number of tax breaks, the number of incentives does pay off in the 30-year range. It does take some time, but as you can see by looking around Zeeland, I think that has been a boon to our community.
simple answer for me is yes. The number of jobs created, the number of investments that come to town, the healthiness of the industrial park that we have, I believe this should continue.
I agree, yes, as well. We have used these, we have used these incentives on many projects, as Glenn mentioned, in our community. I think that it's a draw for people that are willing to invest in our community. Not every city and township is on board with using these incentives. And I think that can be a little short-sighted, and I think thinking big picture, long-term, that it's important. And I also, we want people to want to be in our community, and I think being a team player, having a little skin in the game and thinking outside the box has been good for our community, and we have some pretty great business owners and industry and commercial here because of it.
Again, yes, I think Glenn spelled out all the details well enough for us. It incentivizes businesses to come here, to stay here, which just helps all of the economy grow, from restaurants to affordable living. Short answer, yes.
I would also say yes, for all the reasons that pretty much everyone has said, that I think that they help us make sure we're using our land creatively, especially because Zeeland doesn't have a lot, when it comes to vacant buildings and things like that. I also love that there's multiple layers to it with affordable housing, especially with the one that's being built on the corner, and having a restaurant come in. I'm excited about it.
Okay, well, from here, it looks like we should do our closing statements since we're wrapping up at 8 o'clock. I don't know, we had Andrew start. How about we start at the other end of the table this time with Rebecca?
Thank you again for everybody who attended tonight, and thank you for putting this on and giving the general public an opportunity to come and see who's running and what aligns with how they feel about our city. I'm excited to be running for Zeeland City Council. I am proud to be a Zeelander, and I love this city. I'm committed to continuing to serve in this community that I call home. I bring experience, having served on Zeeland's Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Board of Review, completing the Zeeland Citizens Academy, running my own business for the past 23 years in real estate, and having served 4 years on the board of the West Michigan Lakeshore Association of Realtors, representing 1,200 members from very diverse backgrounds. These roles have given me experience working collaboratively with others who hold different opinions, helping manage and oversee budgets, and a deeper understanding of how our city operates and the complexities of local government. I'm committed to listening, learning, asking questions, representing the city of Zeeland and its residents in a professional manner. I approach each decision thoughtfully, considering all perspectives and thinking about the current and future impacts it will have on our city. It would be an honor to represent you on City Council. I want to continue serving this wonderful, charming, and desirable community. I would appreciate your vote, and I hope you plan on Perkins.
Thanks for coming tonight. For those that don't know me, I'm a hardworking, open-minded, and transparent person. I love the city of Zeeland. I love the people that live here. And I would be honored to serve in the capacity of Zeeland City Council if elected.
So service is at the core of who I am. I have a proven track record of service and dedication to this community. there is nothing that makes me happier than knowing that I am a part of this community. We have a very strong tax base. Our finances are in great shape. I am very proud and honored to have been a part of City Council. I certainly hope to continue doing so. The number of people here that want to do the same is very encouraging to me. I don't look at these people at these tables next to me as opponents. They are options. The best part about doing anything is knowing you did the right thing, but if people don't know it, that's okay. I'm proud to have received the endorsement from Ottawa Integrity, not Ottawa Impact, Ottawa Integrity. I think I've demonstrated my knowledge, and I think experience matters, but talking and listening matters more.
Again, I want to thank you all for being here on such a beautiful day, and I wanted to thank the organizers for hosting this wonderful event this evening. I hope the audience has felt they have a better grasp of who we are as candidates instead of just recognizing us by the design of our campaign signs, which are all great, by the way. I hope this evening has shown you all my fierce dedication to our special city, my passion for local business, public safety, and encouraging growth, not just for growth's sake, but in ways that truly benefit our town now and in the future. Zeeland has an immense amount of momentum, but there are limited ways a city can choose to invest time, money, and resources. We must steward what we have carefully to ensure we can keep on carrying the strong legacy that's been built. I hope I've proven that if elected, I would perform this role to the absolute best of my ability, leaning on my own expertise and empowering others to ensure decisions truly reflect what Zeeland needs. Individually, it would be impossible to be an expert on the needs of every single street in Zeeland, but together we can facilitate an environment where everyone feels welcome to come with concerns and ideas, opening the door for opportunities we can't just think of by ourselves. After all, the city isn't just the buildings, the streets, or the houses. It's the people and businesses, each with their own unique stories, needs, and concerns. Every choice should be treated as the opportunity to physically reflect our dedication as council members to see beyond the decision to the very people and organizations they are for, now and in the future. It would be an honor to serve my community as a councilwoman and continue that humbling work of sustaining the community rich in values, opportunity, neighborliness, and of course, zeal.
Well, I prepared something very short, but I also want to just speak freelance afterward. But thank you again for being here tonight and engaging in this important conversation about the future of our city. Forums like this are a reminder that local government works best when citizens are informed, involved, and willing to share their voices. I chose to run for city council because I care deeply about this community and about the city. This is where I live, where I raise my children, where I work, where I want to see families, neighborhoods, and businesses thrive. I believe our city deserves leaders who will listen first, who will approach decisions thoughtfully and transparently, and who will always put the long-term well-being of our residents ahead of short-term gains. I also wanted to say that I don't think I'm necessarily the most polished public speaker up here today. What I lack in that, I think I make up for in one-on-one conversation. I spend my 10 hours daily doing that with patients, and I'd love it to have the opportunity to talk to any of you one-on-one as well. We learned something yesterday in some tragic events that some people don't want to have conversation anymore. And that can make some people in government, even as small as this, nervous to say what they believe and stand up for what they believe. I was actually reminded by a patient, though, how important it is to stick to your beliefs no matter what other people might think and might argue against. And I firmly believe in my ability to lead Zeeland, to honor God with how I do it, and to represent the citizens of Zeeland as I do it.
Wow, well, thank you very much. To all the candidates, I feel compelled to say in this day and age, I feel such positivity in your answers, you're informative, thanks for coming, and just the notion of wanting to participate in our institutions. This is neighborhood democracy, so let's give them a big clap. And lastly, don't forget to vote November 4th. And there is no early voting, so it's November 4th, or you can do the mailing.
Absentee ballots are
Absentee.
available September 25th.
Thank you, President, Ms. President. September, what do you say, 25th?
25.
25, you'll get the application. So thanks again. Applause to you all.